There are a bunch of different places to post your videos online, but the big two right now are YouTube and Vimeo. And they've kind of been going back and forth over the last couple of years in terms of where I've seen people posting their content. And, it depends on who you are, but I think my recommendation right now is YouTube. It seems to offer a lot more value in terms of what you as a contributor get out of it than Vimeo. But Vimeo does have its pros too. There are reasons to go either way. But for me, I'm leaning towards YouTube right now. At least that's where I'm putting all my stuff now. I was using Vimeo for a while, but YouTube, I think, has the benefit of just the bigger audience. You're reaching more people when you're putting your content on YouTube, whether it's tutorials or tips or your short film or whatever. More eyeballs are probably going to be on it if it's on YouTube as compared to Vimeo, which has a much smaller audience. Now, that audience is probably a little bit more curated. It tends to be more of the artistic, creative type of people who tend to appreciate art a little bit more than your general public who's watching cat videos on YouTube. But for me personally, that the extra exposure you get, because you never know who's going to like your video, right? You don't know going in exactly who it's going to resonate with. So if you can cast that net a little bit wider, you can hit more people and potentially impact somebody who's actually going to share it, with their group of friends who will then pass it along. Whereas Vimeo, you really, really have to have something special to stand out. And Vimeo does the cool thing where they do the staff picks, which I really like, kind of the cream of the crop, the best of the best, their recommendations. And those videos are almost always worth watching. But YouTube, on the other hand, allows you to kind of do the whole ad monetization thing, and that can be really difficult, especially now with music licensing and just making sure you have royalty-free stuff and releases for your actors and all the legal stuff that can come with that. And I know Vimeo has an option to where you kind of pay to watch, but I've never, as an end user, I've never really enjoyed that model. I like contributing to authors and the people who are creating stuff. I hope, I want people to contribute to me too, right? We all want to make money, at least on some level. But it's more of a barrier if I have to pay someone $5, $10, $15 to watch their content rather than watching on YouTube where all I'm approached with is an ad. It's a much lower barrier to entry and there's a lot less friction. And I know the author isn't making as much as if I gave them my money outright, but for the amount of content that people want to watch nowadays on the internet, and so much of it is free, you have to have something, it's either got to be like celebrity endorsed or has some special hook that like the budget's so big or there's some special thing about it that makes it worth giving its money to. And unfortunately, that just doesn't apply to a lot of people. Some people are just making videos with a short film with them and their friends, and they don't have a way to kind of market it or get it out there and get it in front of people's faces unless it is so good. But even then, you're on Vimeo, if you're charging people to watch it, you're kind of asking them to put up money for something that they're not quite sure what they're going to get out of it. With Hollywood and movies, you go pay the ticket prices to go sit in the theater, have the experience, and more or less kind of what you're going to get out of it. With short film and independent film, it's a lot riskier. There are short films and independent films that are just garbage, that aren't worth paying for. And then there's other ones that are really, really valuable and they're better than Hollywood movies. But figuring that out as just some random person on the internet is very difficult sometimes if you don't have someone curating that content. Where if it's on YouTube, you can just watch it, and if you don't like it, okay, no big deal. You didn't have to pay for it. And I think YouTube is starting to actually roll out this kind of paid content as well, where people are paying the channels. And it's kind of interesting how things are being added, like Patreon, and we have Kickstarter and all these different ways for the actual viewers to contribute to the actual authors. It's a really healthy ecosystem, I think. But it is really difficult to stand out online. It's just such a big well of people and all these really talented artists putting their stuff out there. And if you want to stand out, I think you got to go with YouTube, just because it gives you that broader base to broadcast to. And it's, in terms of player quality, there are people who say that Vimeo is way better, but then YouTube added 4K, and now they've got 60 frames a second, and it goes back and forth. Ultimately, I think people don't always care about the quality of what they're watching in terms of like the bit rate and the compression. That is not on the forefront of most people's minds. It's on the minds of the creators and the artists. They want to showcase their stuff in the best quality, but for most people watching, they're watching on a phone. I think it's up to like 50% of YouTube traffic is on mobile devices now. So they're not watching it at 4K. They don't need it at 4K. And they don't need, the pristine, Vimeo's got a better compression algorithm and it's a better bit rate and all blah. That stuff is for the nerds, The average consumer, the person watching it, they want the content to be good. And if there's no barrier for them to watch it other than watching a 30-second ad, which most people are pretty comfortable with now, a lot of people even turn the ads off, which is the ad block or whatever. On YouTube, you're going to get that exposure a little bit easier than on Vimeo. One thing I will say that is nice about Vimeo is that it's really good if you're looking to build a portfolio or kind of a place for people to go to view just your work. YouTube does a good job of linking to related media, but that can be kind of messy when you want to just showcase your material. So if that's the kind of use you're looking for hosting your video, Vimeo would be the better recommendation.